This is Larry Alex Taunton, and it is my pleasure to be interviewing Eric Metaxas, my very good friend, author, radio host, TV host, speaker extraordinaire, and I think we learned earlier, male model. He does all of it. And Eric, I've known Eric for a number of years, and it's really great to have a guy like Eric as a brother in arms. And in these times, people who subscribe to Fixed Point Foundation, to the LarryAlexTaunton.com website will know that I don't do a podcast. I'm not generally hosting, but this time we're reversing it. And so I'm going to interview Eric Metaxas. How are you, Eric?
I'm great. It's just great to talk to you, Larry. We need each other. These are tough times, and it just means everything to have friends and brothers and sisters who are in the fight, who understand what's at stake, and who know that Jesus defeated death. So for us to live in fear is not only cowardly, but it's positively foolish. So it's just good to know that there are a few folks like you who really get that, because we need to inspire the faithful right now.
Yes, we really do. And we're going to attempt to do that here in Birmingham, July 23rd through the 25th, with a conference called Understanding What is Happening in America and What We Can Do. And you can find all that information on the Fixed Point Foundation website or LarryAlexTaunton.com. You'll find it right there on the homepage where you can register and participate in this conference. And Eric, you're one of the speakers at this conference. And what are you going to be talking about?
Well, it's actually very funny. You're very funny to ask me that question, because you've emailed me several times asking me what I'm going to talk about. And I guess the question is, partly, what do you want me to talk about? Because if there is time, I can talk a number of times about several things. I mean, for one thing, I want to talk about Bonhoeffer and the parallels today. It's a sickening thing to even suggest that there are parallels today, but there are. And the good news is that if we look at the parallels, we can know that we don't need to go down the path that Germany went down. If we don't look at the parallels and continue to drift at a rapid rate, as we are now doing, we will, and in fact already are, going down the horrific path that Germany took in the 30s. So I don't think there's any doubt about that. I really wish I were wrong, but I know I'm not. And I wanna warn people about that. So that's one of the things that I would be talking about, and probably the main thing that I would be talking about.
What are some of I don't want to get you to give away your talk before you come, but just give us a hint of what it is that you're talking about. So in what direction, in what ways are there parallels between the United States now and in Germany of the 1930s and 40s?
Well, I mean, I think to frame it really, really flatly, very simply, Germans were, roughly speaking, a free society before the Nazis. They were not a totalitarian society. They were not drifting toward totalitarianism. When Hitler came on the scene, they began a very rapid march in the direction of state control over everyone's lives, and to the point of state control over whether one lived or died. Germans were not prepared for that. Germans did not have a history of self-government in the way that we do. They weren't really aware of how freedom works. Freedom for them was a gift, but it was not a gift that they really had much to do with. In America, we have for 2.5 centuries been living freely in a way that we're more self-conscious about. But the Germans were kind of drifting along, everything was fine, and the Nazis were able to take advantage of their ignorance of how self-government works, because again, they'd not really experienced self-government. They had just had benevolent rulers who chose not to impose totalitarianism on them. So Hitler comes on the scene, and they don't really have the understanding of what is happening and what to do about it. We don't have that excuse. The same thing is happening here because we have over time drifted away from living freely. We've taken it more and more for granted. And the more you take it for granted, the more your ability to do it atrophies. And so we've gotten to a very dangerous place. And of course, the enemy of American style self-government is effectively cultural Marxism. It ends up being totalitarian. But the point is that there's a kind of freedom that we get from God that we either live into, lean into, or it goes away. And so what is happening in America today, the kind of, the thought police, the cultural Marxism taking control, introducing confusing ideas like critical race theory, as if suddenly somebody figured out a new reality and we all have to jump to it. There's a new transgender reality, a new fluid gender idea. All these things are being imposed at a lightning pace. People don't know what to do about it. And the same thing happened in Germany. They were roughly different ideas, but the heart of it was the same. The heart of it was, we're not going to follow logic and science and reason and truth. We're going to impose an ideology, and we who are imposing it bet that we have the power to pull it off before anyone can do anything about it. And that's what happened in Germany. The parallels are that there were people like Bonhoeffer, notably, almost acting like an Old Testament prophet, warning the people, trying to wake them up, especially the church, and say, do you see what's happening? No, it's not okay. No, it's not going to be okay. You need to see what's happening. You need to see this is anti-biblical, anti-God, anti-Germany in the sense of God's idea of Germany. And he was trying to wake up the church because he knew the church was the cultural organ, so to speak, that had the power to stand against this. But he did not succeed. The church kept batting him away and effectively saying, you're being Chicken Little. It's not as bad as you say. And I almost was thinking, what would the German for Chicken Little be? We won't say it because it's too funny. But they just accused him of being, let's say, a Cassandra. And the fact of the matter is, they were wrong and he was right. And at some point, it was too late for the church to do anything. So the question becomes whether in the United States of America, the church specifically, but all patriots, will wake up and take a brave, self-sacrificial stand. That's really an outworking of the agape love of Jesus. I say, I'm going to put myself last. I'm going to put my country and all the people around me first. I'm going to risk my job, my reputation. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to speak the truth. How many people are willing to do it? How many people are very happy to participate in the cancel culture? Say, you know what? I'm not going to talk about election fraud. I'm not going to talk about vaccines. Why? Because I'm afraid somebody might cancel me on social media. I could lose my job. I could lose a promotion. That's exactly what happened in Germany. People just decided, I'm going to look the other way. We'll be fine. If everybody looks the other way, or if enough people look the other way, as many people are doing right now, you lose the nation. And we have a great nation.
I totally agree. Eric, it's interesting. I was interviewing Tom Askell, who's going to be another one of the speakers at this conference. He's a real mover and shaker in the largest Protestant denomination in this country, the Southern Baptist Convention. But he was talking about these days, he gets a lot of pushback, not just from progressives, not just from people on the left, but he's getting a lot of hateful commentary, social media and otherwise, that are coming from people who profess to be Christians. Are you experiencing that?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I've been experiencing it more or less for 4.5 years, since 5 years, since I dared to say that with the choice between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, we're obliged as Christians to vote for Trump. The madness that ensued from that, you would think that I really said we should vote for Hitler, or we should, it's a failure of logic, because people got tremendously emotional and they just refused to see the logic. And so they attacked me, and it really was surprising at first. I thought, wait a minute, what in the world am I missing? We have one candidate that is dramatically pro-life and one candidate that is dramatically pro-abortion. If there were nothing else, that would be dispositive. But there was so much more. We had one candidate that was embroiled in corruption, a career politician going back decades, that was allied to the most leftist parts of the Democratic Party and seemingly willing to do anything to succeed. And then he had somebody else coming from the private sector, and on it went. But it really fell along the most basic lines, a binary choice. And people went crazy. And we've been seeing that craziness accelerate to the point where today I'm attacked constantly for things that I would guess people would rather applaud me for, standing up for freedom and for the founder's vision. And so it really is just, we're living through a crazy time. And I feel like the biggest thing we can do, Larry, is for folks like you and me to tell each other and everyone, you're not crazy. What you see is crazy. You're not the one that's crazy. The gender fluidity, the critical race theory, the white supremacy, this stuff is madness. But why should we be surprised? Madness was unleashed on Germany. We've seen madness take over cultures over and over through history, leading to murder and butchery and bloodshed from the French Revolution to the present day and long before that. So it's just come to us. So the question is now, when it comes to us, what will we do? Will we see clearly and stand, or will we just fold, which is our fallen human nature? So we have to really exhort each other to do something about it, and don't pay attention to those who are calling us names and things. There are more important things.
Why do you suppose, Eric? I mean, we grew up in a generation where, I mean, I was taught about communism from middle school on. I was, shown videos of the horror of Stalinism, of not just of fascism, but also of socialism, of communism. I don't recall ever bumping into any pro-socialist pastors in my youth. What do you suppose has changed that has made so many pastors, so many Christians so susceptible to cultural Marxism, who seem to be embracing it either openly or in some kind of soft form and endorsing it? Again, I was interviewing Tom Askell yesterday, and Tom had said he was talking to, he didn't give the name, but somebody who apparently wields a heavy stick in the Southern Baptist Convention. And during the conversation, the guy had said to him, this is rooted in this cultural Marxism stuff. This is rooted in the thought of Augustine. And Tom said, at that moment, I thought, we're done. If guys like this really believe that to be true, I mean, it's sheer nonsense. So what do you think is happening? There's so many Christians are buying into this, or at least willing to go along with it.
Well, look, you know, and I know that the scripture is clear that in the last days, even the elect might be deceived. In other words, we are fallen, we are sinners, and it is only the grace of God that helps us to see the truth. And look, if German Christians in the 30s could drift toward National Socialist ideology, why would we be surprised that today American Christians, Christian leaders, could drift toward critical race theory and all this other madness? It doesn't take much. In other words, we know that Satan appears as an angel of light. He doesn't say, I'm evil. He says, I'm good. I'm against racism. Aren't you against racism? Yeah, we're against racism. Well, if you're against racism, then blah, 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 blah. And people just buy into it because they've been suckered by, the opening line. That's what happens in a society that is not really armed for ideological warfare. We're very soft ideologically. We're very comfortable. We've never had to exercise our muscles to think critically. We've had a good time in America. Since you and I were kids, it's been peace and prosperity by any standards in history. And so we've forgotten that the normal situation for human beings is brutal, is violent. My parents maybe one of the reasons that I can see this is because my parents grew up during World War II in Europe. They experienced the horrors of war, of losing their fathers at an extremely early age. They experienced hunger, and they talked about it incessantly during my youth and still do. So I was aware that having everything and being in a free country was not normal, and that people had to pay a price for it. We've ceased to teach that very much. Again, since you and I were kids, maybe we caught some of it. I'm sure living in the South, you got a lot more of it than I would have up north. But I don't think it got really bad until the 80s and 90s. And so you have a whole generation of people that they are simply unaware of the realities of history, of where these things go. Patriotism has become a dirty word for many in America, for anybody in the academy. Let's face it. I mean, I remember when I first was at Yale, I had never encountered that kind of a built-in anti-Americanism, the skepticism toward our leadership, the openness toward communists, toward the Sandinistas, toward whoever it was that was on the other side, because everybody hated Reagan. Well, now they hate Trump. It's just the same thing, but it's gotten worse and worse because of the long march through the institutions. It's been able to make incremental progress in seminaries, in universities, in the newsrooms across America. So you have an entire class of cultural elites who've been schooled in globalist anti-American thinking. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, Eric, you're so divisive, you're so unloving, you're so unchristian to stand for biblical principles and fight for these things. I mean, how dare you do that?
It's funny, Larry, because you and I know have talked about my new book, which is called Fish Out of Water. It's the story of my life growing up. And in Fish Out of Water, I talk about my mom and dad a lot, because it was in the course of writing that book that I realized that it was their suffering in the war and after the war that made me who I am. I think a lot of times as Christians, we want to say, before I was born again, I was nothing. That's not biblically accurate. God uses all kinds of people and things to teach us. And he used my parents, and his love for me was expressed through them. And so it was in the course of writing Fish Out of Water that I really came to terms with how it is that I'm able to see some of these things, which of course now I understand are biblical. So now it's not just, experience. It's I can see the roots of evil and how they work themselves out through history. But in writing the book, I really came to terms with the fact that it was my parents raising me to love America and to be grateful for America. I didn't see that as much in my friends whose parents had been blessed with growing up in America, the grandparents had been blessed with growing up in America. And when I got to college, as you know, it was the exact opposite. And I think that writing Bonhoeffer made me kind of ashamed of times that I had been more silent or more, I don't want to be divisive. I thought to myself, there are some times that if you speak the truth, you're going to be divisive. And the problem is really not with people who are divisive. It's people who shrink from speaking the truth. And you have to have discernment. And so all that came to a head for me, 12, 13 years ago when I was writing Bonhoeffer. And I've just never been the same, because I saw someone that I admired go through a time of craziness and stand up when other people refused to stand up. And as Christians, we're not supposed to fear death. If we fear death, we've really, really missed the heart of the good news.
Eric Metaxas, author of Bonhoeffer and Fish Out of Water. I hope people will buy that. Excellent book. And I don't want to use up any more of your time, but Eric, you've been so great in this. I'm going to double what I'm paying you to come to this conference here in Birmingham. Eric,
I
reason...
can't wait to catch that check. That's crazy, man.
Eric will know that this is funny because all of our participants in this, they're participating in this conference because they believe in what we're trying to accomplish. And again, it's understanding what's happening in America and what you can do July 23rd through the 25th, so just a couple of weeks from now. And we hope you'll come and join us. Eric will be there, Tom Askell, Sam Sorbo, C.L. Bryant, I'll be there. And we're going to try to stack a few coals and we're trying to fan them into a flame. Eric, it's been a pleasure having you.
I want to just make a final point, Larry. Almost everywhere I speak, I have to get paid just because I can't afford to do whatever I like. And I believe in all of the places where I go and speak. I believe in what they're doing. The difference is you. I believe in you. This is a really special thing. And I want your audience to know that I'm doing this for you in particular. I'm all in for the country and all that, but your willingness to host this and to do something different in this way. I hope everybody comes. Birmingham, Alabama is a great place to come for no reason, but this is a great reason. So thanks for inviting me, and I just can't wait till it happens.
Brother, I really appreciate it. And you mean to tell me you don't have one of these right here? That's a money tree.
I don't. I don't.
I just pluck 20s off of that all day long.
Isn't that great?
Well, truthfully, as it relates to this, you occasionally get people who give you pushback on the cost of some of these things, as if somehow in the Christian world, the realities of economics don't function the same as they do everywhere else. This event is really a struggle for us. It's about a $50,000 gig in order to put this on, and it's because of the promotion for this. We want to provide the room and board for our speakers. We've given scholarships to a few people. And the venues these days are just crazy expensive. And then that's before you get to AV and meals and all that sort of stuff. So we're doing this because we believe in it. I believe in it. I believe in Eric Metaxas. I believe in all the people that we have coming to this. And it's why I've asked them to come, because I've seen that they all share this passion. Sometimes there's some people, them and I know them, that you feel like their passion is there so long as it promotes their brand or it sells their book or it does whatever. Listen, I'm all for, I'm a capitalist. I'm all for that. I know Eric Metaxas can't come to Birmingham on his own dime all the time. We understand that. But what I really appreciate about everybody who's participating in this is that they would be doing this whether they had a quote unquote platform or not, whether they were professional speakers or writers or radio hosts. They believe passionately in their faith, and they believe that this country is worth saving. So these things that matter a great deal. And Eric, it's been a pleasure hosting you, and I look forward to seeing you in just a couple of weeks, my friend.
Can't wait. Thank you.